Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, why do certain comments hurt me so much? Why do I get triggered so easily? Why do I constantly seek validation? Why do I doubt myself even when there's no reason to? For the longest time, I thought these were just personality flaws. I thought maybe I was too sensitive, maybe I lacked confidence, maybe simply there was something wrong with me. But over time, I discovered it something that completely changed the way I look myself. Most of our struggles are not created in the present. They are carried from the past, and many of them began in childhood. Because the truth is, childhood ends, its impact often doesn't. Let me share you my personal experience. One principle has changed my life more than almost anything else. Whenever I find a problem within myself, I ask, what is the root of this problem? When I start doing this, I noticed something shocking. Most of my insecurity led me back to childhood. One of the biggest example was my appearance. For years, I genuinely believed that I wasn't attractive enough. I wasn't good looking enough. People used to comment on my nose that, oh, your nose is so small. People used to make remarks about my lips. Sometimes it was said as a joke, sometimes it was said casually. But when you are young, you don't know how to separate someone's opinion from the truth. So slowly I started believing them. Every time I looked into the mirror, I wasn't seeing myself. I was seeing the comments. I was seeing the criticism. I was seeing years of judgments. I would stand in front of the mirror and think, maybe I need to fix my nose, maybe my lips are too big, or whatever. Maybe if I look different, I would finally feel good enough. And the scary part is that after hearing something repetitively, you stop questioning it. You simply accept it as reality. For years, I thought my face was the problem. But after carrying these insecurities for so long, I finally decided to look deeper. I finally decided to go back to the roots. I finally decided to move inward. And when I was 17, I started to look inward. And what I found surprised me. The problem was never my nose. The problem was never my lips. The problem was the belief I had built around them. A belief that started years ago. A belief I never consciously chose. A belief that was planted in the childhood. And that's when I realized something. Sometimes the biggest battles we are fighting today started years ago. This isn't just my experience, and this is just a one instance that I have shared with you. I have numerous examples which I picked out from my life, that how they are rooted from my childhood, how I am behaving in this way, and why I have this particular issue. Answer is always in the childhood. This isn't just my experience. Psychology has been studying this for decades. One of the most influential British psychologist, John Bowlby developed attachment theory. His research said that our earliest relationships create the mental blueprints for how we see ourselves and how we relate to the other people later in life. If a child grows up feeling safe, valued, and understood, they often develop a stronger sense of security. But if a child grows up constantly criticized, ignored, rejected, or emotionally neglected, those experiences can shape the way they see themselves for years. The child grows up, but the blueprint remains. And that's why many adults are not reacting to what's happening today. They are reacting to patterns learned years ago. Let me give you the study that shocked the researchers. In 1995, Dr. Vincent and Dr. Robert conducted what became one of the most important studies ever done on childhood experience. It's called the ACE study. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. More than 17,000 participants were involved. The researchers wanted to understand whether difficult childhood experiences affect adult life. What they found was astonishing. The more adverse experience people have in their childhood, the more likely they were struggle later with anxiety, depression, addiction, relationship problems, chronic illness, and many other difficulties. Think about that. Something that happened when you were 7 years old and still be affecting the decisions you make at 27 or at any age. That's how powerful childhood experience can be. When people hear the word trauma, they usually think about extreme situation, abuse, violence, major tragedy. But trauma expert says it isn't always that simple. Dr. Gabor May explains trauma as not only what happened to us, but what happens inside us. Two children can experience the same event. One receives support, the other feels completely alone. The event is the same, the impact is different, because trauma is not just about events, it's about how those events shape your beliefs like I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'll be rejected, I'm not beautiful like me, my feelings don't matter. And once those beliefs become part of your identity, they quietly begin controlling your life. Let me explain you how childhood shows up in adulthood. Maybe you constantly seek approval, maybe criticism feels unbearable, maybe you overthink every text message, maybe you stay in toxic relationships because being alone feels terrifying, maybe you keep comparing yourself to everyone around you, and maybe you have convinced yourself that these are just personality traits. But what if they are actually survival strategies? What if your brain learned these behaviors years ago? Because children are incredibly smart. When they experience pain, they adapt, they create strategies to survive emotionally. The problem is that those strategies often stay with us long after the danger is gone. One of the most respectful trauma researchers, Dr. Basil, wrote a famous book called The Body Keeps the Score. His central message is powerful. The body remembers experiences even when the conscious mind believes it has moved on. That's why most people feel anxious without understanding why. That's why some people struggle to trust others. That's why some people feel guilty for resting. The threat may be gone, but the nervous system still behaves as if it's there. When I finally traced back my insecurities to their roots, something changed. I stopped asking what's wrong with me and I started asking, where did I learn this? That question changed everything, because once I understood where those beliefs came from, I stopped treating them as facts. I started seeing for what they really were: stories, old stories, stories written by childhood experiences, stories written by people who didn't get to decide my worth. And if a belief can be learned, it can also be unlearned. So, if there is something in your life that keeps hurting you, something that keeps triggering you, something that keeps making you question yourself, don't just look at the symptoms, look at the root. Ask yourself, where did I learn this? Who taught me this? When did I start believing this? Because sometimes the answer isn't in your present, sometimes it's hidden in your childhood. And the moment you find the root of an insecurity, you take away its power, because that voice telling you that you are not enough may not be your voice at all. I'm sure it may be an old wound speaking, an old fear speaking, an old story speaking. And healing begins the moment you realize you are not the wound, you are the person carrying it. And what is learned can be unlearned, what is broken can be healed, and your past may explain you, but it does not get to define the rest of your life. That's all for today's discussion. Thank you for watching me.